Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network on the Double A Network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And the good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful May the 20th, 2019, Grando Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton recovering from a knockout, drag-out weekend down here in the South, from horse racing to boxing to golf. I mean, nobody wanted to cross the finish line.
Man, you had a busy weekend. You went horse racing, you had a fight, and you played golf, Big C. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what it seems like, Charlton. Everybody was left at the starter's line, seems like.
Yeah, it does seem that way. It was a very, busy weekend, especially for Kepka, and, a lot of good things about golf. I know that every time you have somebody having to set records in the first couple of days, he did have some bogeys down the end on the last day, but it actually helped him because he helped to calm himself down. It's good to see him go from start to finish winning that thing. Also, NBA basketball. Toronto, we have a game, and it's great that Toronto got a win, but Drake maybe too soon to be waving bye-bye to the Milwaukee Bucks. Also, Golden State looking to close out tonight. A lot of things going on in the sports universe. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. So Big C, with all the boxing and all the horse racing, there was a knockout that lasted first round. It reminded me of Mike Tyson, but about a foot taller. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, it was a devastating punch in the fight. Dominic Breazeale went into this fight thinking that he had a chance.
Yeah.
But, when you get knocked out, you really don't understand what's going on. And after the fight, he said he felt that the officials stopped the fight too soon.
Right.
Even though he was counted out, he was TKO'd, Charlton. Yep. Deontay Wilder hit him with a haymaker, with 250 to go in the first round, 250 gone from the first round.
Yeah.
This just left him dazed. I mean, his ear ended up behind his shoulder, Charlton.
Wow.
I mean, one of the more devastating punches I've seen in a heavyweight fight in a long time.
Yeah.
And you thank the officials in this situation for stopping the fight, for not leaving a fighter that's wounded in peril, because Deontay Wilder would have continued hitting him. And I don't know what Breazeale was thinking, that you go in with a guy who says that you can kill a man legally in the ring,
yeah,
and you're standing there with your hands by your hips.
Yeah, it doesn't make any
you're
sense.
not even protecting your head.
Yeah.
So you were challenging him to see if he could technically do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a devastating punch. I mean, the heavyweight ranks has always been the premier ranking in boxing, and it's good to see that heavyweights can command a card now, Charlton, in boxing.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get some more quality fights in boxing, and it just won't be MMA from here on in.
Yeah, that's always good. And we know when you look at every fighter, I've never met a fighter, even after being knocked out, covering so many MMA fights over the past several years, every guy thinks I needed one more second, I needed one more round, I needed one more chance. You've seen a lot of punches, and nobody knows how hard somebody punches until you actually get hit by that person. But if we could name some of the hardest hitters in the sport of boxing, people might say Liston. Ali was not that hard of a hitter. He was just precise. And then George Foreman, he was a heavy hitter. Mike Tyson, maybe even harder than Foreman. How would you rank this guy, the knockout king, to Tyson and Foreman and guys like, just some of the past great fighters? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as far as early round knockouts, he's right there with Mike Tyson when you talk about early round knockouts.
Yeah.
One of the greatest heavyweight fights I ever saw in my lifetime, it was in Vegas. It was Michael Dokes and Ernie Shavers.
Yeah.
Well, this fight featured 11 knockdowns, Charlton.
Wow.
This is when they used to fight in the back parking lot at Caesar's Palace.
Yeah.
I mean, it was about 100 degrees out there in the parking lot that day.
Yep.
But, you talk about two gladiators, and this is why you're thankful that boxing went from 15 rounds down to 12 rounds to save lives. And because if this fight had ended in a knockout, Charlton, one of these gentlemen most likely would have lost their lives. But neither one of them were the same after that fight between Shavers and Michael Dynamite Dokes.
Yeah.
But, I've seen devastating knockouts. Everybody always revels about George Foreman, how he beat up Joe Frazier. And
yeah.
other, Sonny Liston, being the horrid that he was in the ring. But that to me was the most devastating heavyweight fight that I had ever witnessed in person.
Let me get your feeling. Do you think, with all the talk that we've had about where are the great heavyweight fighters now, it seems like most of the fighters, they're about 6'6", 6'7". It's almost like a display of the strongman competition with boxing gloves. Back in the day when Tyson was doing this thing, Holyfield, these guys stood around 6 feet to 6'2". Tyson 5'10". A lot of good fighters that can stand the test of time. Sugar Ray Leonard, he wasn't a big guy, but his boxing skill was amazing. Thomas Hitman Hearns, this guy looks like Thomas Hitman Hearns, but about 100 pounds heavier. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he reminds me so much physically of Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis was a British heavyweight champion of the world, Charlton, during the late 90s, early 2000s. He stood about 6'6", and Fury is 6'7". I mean, Wilder is 6'7".
Yeah.
But as we look at the growth, when you think about the Klitschko brothers, as they reigned over the heavyweight title for about a decade, and they were both 6'7", 6'8", Charlton. So the diminutive stature boxer, such as a Mike Tyson, length and skill, eliminated a lot of those guys because of the reach. If you kept them at bay and didn't get within their fighting range, then you could control them, and that became Mike Tyson's Achilles heel. Later on in his career, guys figured they could just weather the first few rounds and keep them at bay, that they stood a chance. And so now when we see the growth of all athletes in all sports, that there's no longer the small, diminutive player that generally dominates a sport, whether it's football, basketball, baseball. I mean, you look at Aaron Judge with the Yankees, who's standing 6'7", a hulking of a man in the outfield. We look at basketball now, where you have guys that are 6'10", 6'11", handling the basketball, bringing it up and down the floor. We've seen that evolution in basketball.
Yes.
How the growth basketball, the growth of boxing.
Yes.
How the evolution in size has changed the dynamics of how fighters fight. I mean, you think about Rocky Marciano. He would not survive in today's fighting games, even though he was 49-0 during his heavyweight reign, but he was only 5'10", 5'11". He couldn't have got within the reach of these massive fighters.
And he fought a lot of guys that were washed up, too. He didn't have the same influence that a lot of the African-American champs have had over the years. Give me your feeling, Joe Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Howard Cosell made boxing great. I won't say he made it great, but he was a voice between the ring and then the audience, the great late Howard Cosell. I think we're missing some of that because we don't get to see a lot of boxing. As great as this fight was, I didn't even see it. I know it's promoted on pay-per-view and people got to watch it at different times of the evening. But boxing for one moment, this guy can make boxing on par with MMA again, I think. I want to get your thoughts on that because MMA has been the hot ticket late. But this fight, in a fighter like him, they want to see people who can run around like Thanos and destroy half the universe, Big C. Give me your feeling on, did this fight itself get people more interested in boxing, or is it just one page of fighting and then back to MMA dominance? Your thoughts?
Well, I think it's more than just one page because, Wilder's been around for a while doing this. I mean, most of it, half his fights have ended within the first couple of rounds throughout his career. But, boxing, it lacks promotion that the MMA does. MMA fights all the time.
Yep.
To have a heavyweight boxing match, you're talking about 4 to 6 months in between matches. MMA, we see that weekly, bi-weekly on television.
Yes.
So the fans are getting a mouthful of it at all time, regardless of the weight division.
Yes.
You just don't have the promoted names in boxing. You spoke about Howard Cosell. Boxing made Howard Cosell, not him making boxing.
Right.
He happened to gravitate to the most magnifying person at the time, Muhammad Ali. Prior to that, he was just a professor in the Ivy League.
Yes.
All of a sudden, he saw this great opportunity while he was doing interviews to talk to this man, not to belittle the man, but just to talk to him.
Right.
To get a personal insight with him, gained a friendship, and it propelled both of their careers because they used each other as stepping stones when they needed to be pushed up, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so that's what was great about Howard Cosell, is that he could appeal to the masses with his oratory, the way that he spoke and articulated everything. And then he brought Muhammad Ali along into that match, and they gravitated to each other and expanded each other's career.
Well, I recall, and I love what you said about they helped each other. I met the late Howard Cosell at an airport when I was about 19 years old. Very shy gentleman, but very well-spoken. Really appreciate how he opened up the world of boxing. Want to get what more thoughts on this boxing. I remember Cyborg when she was kicking everybody's butt in MMA. I think she was 20-1, and she had lost a fight in many moons, and then she gets knocked out. And that in itself, because MMA has the women's side of boxing, and there's no Layla Ali premier.
Did she fight a guy or something?
Well, I think she fought a woman, but they haven't blood tested yet, Big C. They haven't blood tested yet. And I know it's a tough business, but where MMA still helps out, you have females in one night, and you have men in the other night, and they keep building it up. I would love to see boxing make a comeback. And if it does come back, can he carry it, Big C, or is it just, I'm going to say something that's really stupid, but it won't be the first time. Oftentimes, America loves to have someone that they hate. They hated Mike Tyson. They loved seeing him knock people out. And you hear those comments that I want to kill the guy. Donald Trump said the same thing, walking down the street shooting somebody, and no one said, oh my God, he can't be president. They still voted him president. This fighter says the same thing, and they say, do you think he's bad for boxing? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, boxing is a gladiator sport. It's always been a very violent sport. There's never been, Girl Scout cookie sold in the ring at a boxing match. It just doesn't happen.
Thin bits.
It's been the ultimate violent sport to go out and put as much physical pain and harm as you can on your opponent.
Yes.
I mean, the referee will stop it if it gets illegal, but that's what boxing has always been. There's been many deaths in the ring, unfortunately, in boxing.
Yeah.
But everyone takes that risk when they go in. The risk in MMA is more hazardous than what it is in boxing. In boxing, you can't kick and knee somebody in the head.
Yeah,
you have to use a glove, a 13-ounce glove, to hit somebody with an 8-ounce glove.
Yes.
MMA, you're basically using bare knuckle tactics.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the violence in a sport and what MMA has done to people, there's been more people injured brain-wise in MMA than there has in boxing, and it has not been around anywhere the length of boxing has over time.
Yeah.
But when you talk about boxing gaining the full power that it used to have, it would take a lot longer than what it has done here recently, because the title is split between 3 different champions.
Yes.
Unless you have a unified title, Charleston, boxing really doesn't mean much.
Yeah.
But when you have 3 different belts, 3 different titles, 3 different champions, and you can't get them all together to unify the title, Charleston, it loses some of its esteem as far as being the great spectacle out there.
Let me get your thoughts before we go on to something I want to ask you about. Think about all the great fights you've seen. I remember Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard, part 1. Part 2, not as much. I remember watching Sugar Ray Leonard and his fight with the big brother from Detroit, Thomas Hitman Hearns. I love seeing that. I love Mike Tyson when he fought Holyfield first time. Of course, there's Ali Frazier. Is there any fight that you would like to say is your most desired, most anticipated? Because we had Floyd Money Mayweather and Conor McGregor, which wasn't even the same skill level, and that sold more tickets than anything. Is there one fight that you say, I got to see that fight, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, the greatest fight that I ever saw was Thomas Hearns and Marvin Hagler in Las Vegas.
Yes.
That was the greatest 4 rounds of boxing in history. You talk about electricity. I think it might lightning bolt might have hit the ring at some point.
Yeah.
But I mean, you couldn't even breathe because you'd have missed something.
Yeah.
And I was at the first Duran-Leonard fight in Montreal.
Yeah.
I was amongst that 70,000 people that got into the Olympic Stadium there.
Yeah.
But that Hagler-Hearns fight, Charlton, still goes down in the annals as one of the top 2 or 3 fights in history, regardless, depending on who you talk to. To me, it's still the greatest fight that I've ever seen, because the fight started with a serious punch and it ended with a serious punch.
Yeah.
It started with a knockout punch and it ended with a knockout.
Yeah, I think that's a very good statement. Also, people love George Foreman when he fought Ali. I remember seeing Foreman practice at a gym in Hayward, California, in the Bay Area, just south of Oakland. And I remember seeing how big this guy was. He actually called one of my brothers up to the ring. My brother said no because he was smart. He didn't want to get in the ring with the champ. As a teenager, though, just joking around. But seeing him fight and then Ali beat him, that was one of the seminal moments in my life. You talked about Howard Cosell and Ali. I want to bring up something that's been happening today. And it really goes without fanfare, but a good friend told me there's a gentleman, African-American billionaire. You know how we always talk about how can people give back, Big C? And we talked about Shaq and Barkley and Kennedy Smith saying that I'm rich too. And it'd be great if they talked about how they could give back as opposed to saying, hey, I'm rich. How much is in your wallet is the question for everybody. There's a wonderful man. I have an insurance partner that actually knows him. His name is Robert F. Smith. at the commencement speech at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. He announced paying off $40 million in student debt at the university. Black man, what can we learn from that as we're wondering why Magic Johnson quit and where Durant's going to be next year, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what Robert Smith did, Charlton, at Morehouse graduation, where he was the MC there, Charlton, was just a marvelous feat of humanity.
Yes.
And many billionaires have done this. Bill and Melinda Gates, they've done this also. Warren Buffett has done the same thing. But this is the first African-American, Charlton, who has gone into an HBC, an all-male college, Morehouse University in Atlanta.
Yes.
And he paid off the student debt of the 396 students that were graduating, the male class that was graduating. What this does, Charlton, is pays forward their future. You think that you can leave college debt-free. The average student at Morehouse College has between $150,000 and $200,000 in debt.
Yes.
By the time they graduate through student loans. When you think about that, you can leave college debt-free. There's no burden on your parents. There's no burden on you. You can move into the workforce, Charlton, and take that money and help pay forward.
Yeah.
You know, it's like being in line at a fast food drive-through or a Dunkin' Donuts or something.
Yeah.
And you say, look, I want to take care of the cup of coffee or the order for the next person. And you leave the waiter extra money right there in the window.
Yeah.
This piece of humanitarianism, Charlton, from the corporate sector, because he's a philanthropist, investor, hedge fund manager. His hedge fund handles some $400 billion in money, Charlton.
Yes.
His net worth is in excess of $8 billion. But when you look at Mr. Smith and what he did, and saying that I'm going to release the burden that you've been shackled with. This is what slaves felt when they were released through the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yes.
But to be able to go out in society and start life new with a college degree. I know everybody always talk about college athletes leaving college and they don't know anything. You think about these 396 young men, Charlton, that dedicated their lives to education and bettering and empowering themselves.
Yes.
Now Mr. Smith has totally empowered them because now they go out and these are 396 mentors that he's releasing into society.
Wow.
You don't worry about saying athlete. You don't have to look for an athlete. These are real mentors. These are men who understand the value of helping and giving. There's no one that's going to be seeking them out because they have a jersey on, Charlton.
Wow.
That's not going to be their identification and their mantra in life. Their mantra and their service in life is going to go out and help each other anonymously, Charlton, helping others, giving forward. That's what you look for in life. People who say athletes and everybody else should be out there helping, that's because they got a number on and a name on their back so people identify it.
Right.
You don't want to be identified. When Mr. Smith stood up there at the podium, Charlton, he wasn't wearing a number.
Nope.
His name wasn't posted across his back. He just said, this is my class. This is my class that I own. And I'm going to, take care of all of their debt. I'm putting together a fund so that all of your debt is wiped out. So you can move forward in society and help others like you've just been helped.
Yes.
Do you think about if you take your first year earnings, or even half your first year earnings, and invest it in wherever you want to, whether it's in a community or a program,
yes,
or a nonprofit.
Yes.
Think about the advantage that you've gained and you've helped others and gain in life, Charlton, at an early age.
That's good. I want to be a billionaire, Big C. I know you want to be a billionaire. You probably already are on all those Escalades you got. I thought I was going to a car dealership one time, pulling it back your place. But at the same time, I want to say that Big C Sports is so proud to mention this. You can Google this. We were talking about black wealth and black success on our programs. We talked about different women and that we've talked about over the last couple of months on our program. And I just think it's so important that we talk about that, because if we don't do it, most people won't hear about it. Today makes my heart so proud, because I think sometimes when we say things, it has resonance around the world. I believe it does, Big C. And everybody knows that we were just talking about this just last week, about some of the great African Americans in this country that have amassed great wealth. And sometimes people say, well, you're just talking, but it's not just talk. And I want to get your feelings, because it's so important to us to have people share what they know. And if they don't share it, then people don't know it. And I love what you said about he not having a uniform on when he said what he said. And we talked earlier last week about Oprah Winfrey, also about there's a Florasano Jaka, there's Sheila Johnson, there's Isabel Dos Santos. There's so many great people, Big C, that have gone on to greatness that were black. And not too many people know about them. What can we do as a group of people going forward the way he did, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is the thing that I preach all the time. I know you're constantly talking about what can people do. And I said it comes down to education.
Yes.
Number one, this is what it comes down to, education. How are you raised at home? What are you getting at home? Don't make somebody outside your home responsible for your children.
Yes.
You are responsible for your children. You think about what Mr. Smith did over the weekend, Charlton. He gave life to 396 men who dedicated their lives to education, Charlton.
Wow.
Their families who dedicated their lives to education. Not about playing basketball.
Right.
Not about playing football, baseball. Not about being recognized for having a uniform on, as everybody wants to recognize a black man for.
Right.
He went out and encouraged black men to become leaders in society. One of the things I always preach, become a leader in society, because you can do that your entire life.
Yes. Mr.
Robert Smith is 60 years old. Probably never played sports in his life. You know, he has the the Cornell Business School named after him because of the endowment he gave to the university of $50 million. They named the Cornell Business School after him.
Right.
You think about him paying into Morehouse, $40 million endowment to wipe out student debt. Of students, Charlton, not athletes. He didn't go in there and say, hey, how many points a game you're scoring?
Right.
You know, how many yards you're rushing for in a game, or
how much do you
how many home runs you hit.
Yeah.
That was not part of the commencement speech, Charlton.
Yes.
And that needs to become the mantra of black America. I know that everybody loves sports, but when you learn and realize, Barry Rice does it great on a PSA commercial, talking about the percentage of young athletes that will not play professional sports.
Yeah.
There are 350,000 college athletes in America, Charlton, on all levels, starting with junior college on up. Less than 1% of 1% will become pro.
Wow.
So do the math on who's going to be the leaders in society. I'm not talking about the leader on the court. I'm not talking about the leader on the football field. Who's going to become the leader in society? That's what you just got this weekend from Morehouse College. You got 396 African-American leaders put into American society.
Yeah. On
this weekend, debt free. So they got a head start. It's like being born with that silver spoon in your mouth, like many rich white kids have done that had those illegal, papers getting into colleges and stuff.
Like Trump.
But they earned theirs. They earned theirs. None of these kids at Morehouse College had fake transcripts to get into the college.
No.
Their parents did not pay for them to get into this college, one of the most prestigious male black colleges in America, Charlton.
Yep.
They all earned what they did academically to get into that college and graduate, Charlton. Think about it. 396 of them are now become African-American leaders in American society.
I love that, because we know that in the United States of America, a lot of white men and women have had a head start, especially white women since the Civil Rights Movement. We were talking about last week about Madam C.J. Walker on the 100-year anniversary of the death of Madam C.J. Walker, and how she became America's first black millionaire. People talk about Oprah, but Madam C.J. Walker, she did it first. And I'm telling you, there's something about the universe. We were talking about wealth and how to create wealth for all people, especially black Americans, because we're the only group that really have been kind of targeted and turned down and told no whenever we're trying to talk about equality, and it really is about economics. So I really just appreciate the fact that we can pay homage to that black man who's very wealthy, worth $5 billion, while most of our other brethren, black and white, are only talking about Magic Johnson and did he step down, should he have told somebody, should he have done it a different way, or how many points can somebody score.
Well, when you talk about Magic Johnson, Charlton, to tell me which general manager, which coach, it said, well, you're going to get fired. We're going to give you a week notice.
Right.
I mean, the Jets just went through that.
Yep.
When they fired their GM last week. There wasn't a lot of crying in the media talking about he was classless.
Nope.
He did it the wrong way. Fired the director of personnel.
Yep.
They didn't say, well, that was cowardly, the way they fired him after, the free agency, after the draft and all that.
Yep.
The team moved in a different direction twice, the largest media market in America. But because the owner decided he wanted to fire somebody, on his terms,
right,
it's acceptable.
Right.
Magic Johnson left the Lakers on his terms because he knew that there was a rift within the organization.
Yep.
He didn't make the rift noted the reason why he left. He left because the rift was there.
Yep.
And he was uncomfortable with it, Charlton. He's a successful businessman. White media gets mad whenever a black man can control the narrative.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. Well, he's uppity. He's cocky. Magic Johnson is successful.
Yeah.
He's been successful as a player. He's been successful as a businessman.
Yep.
His managerial skills in basketball coaching, he hasn't been as successful. But he no longer wanted to be a part of what the Lakers were. Look at the dysfunctionality of the Lakers over the last half decade, Charles.
Yes.
They haven't made the playoffs in 6 years. The Buss family had an internal fight between the brother and the sister for control of the organization that she took over finally in 2017.
Yep.
But in all that dysfunctionality, they've had 5 different coaches, Charlton, during that time. So you had no stabilization in organization. You've had 2 GMs, Mitch Kupchak and Rob Pelinka.
Yes.
You had no stabilization there. You haven't gotten the draft right. You haven't made the playoffs in 6 years. Magic got LeBron James to come to the Lakers. One of the greatest ambassadors in the NBA.
Yes.
Even though LeBron has other things, he could have gone to the Clippers. Magic got him to come to the Lakers. But the dysfunctionality within the organization, and the media wants to come out and blame Magic for it. And then they want to say, well, he was ill-timed because they were naming the coach today, and then he's going to go out and speak to the media.
Yeah.
If the Lakers are bigger than Magic, then Magic making his announcement to the media was mute, okay?
No big deal.
But Magic is bigger than the Lakers. The Lakers are dysfunctional, and the media knows that. So Rob Pelinka is having to answer questions about Magic instead of concentrating on a head coach.
Yes.
That shows how little Rob Pelinka is, that he's concentrating on Magic. Magic's no longer a part of the organization. He should be embracing his coach and moving the franchise forward and talking about the moves they're going to make. But here it is, he's talking about Magic Johnson.
Yeah, and it goes back to people want to hear the truth. What's that movie? You Can't Handle the Truth. I want the truth. You Can't Handle the Truth. The great Jack and Tom Cruise. And so Magic Johnson told his truth, and I think that's fine. I want to just close out this story on billionaire Robert Smith announcing paying off $40 million in student debt at the great Morehouse University. When you think about it, as of 2019, there were only 14 black billionaires in the world. 14 out of 1,810 billionaires. Now imagine a world, we saw the movie Black Panther that said it was a $1 billion movie. Imagine if we could make black billionaires commonplace, the same way we do athletes. I would love if Mr. Smith can do more of the teaching so we could all follow that yellow brick road. I think that's so important. And paying it forward is important. Magic Johnson's also a millionaire, Big C. Maybe a billionaire from what I hear. But something that set me back this morning, listening to sports talk all over Northern California, Magic Johnson's being called a coward by many of our mainstream broadcasters that could not hold his jockstrap, that begged him for an autograph, begged him for a handshake. And what I don't like is when they take a black man who's very successful out in front of the universe and they call him a coward for exercising his right to do what he wants to do. I don't like that message being sent, Big C. And I would love to get your thought, because many of our white brethren would do that with impunity, but they don't chastise their own kind, especially their own billionaires, when they decide to go a different direction. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there's been many white coaches that have walked away from the game. I've never heard them being called a coward. I've seen white GMs walk away from the game. I've never heard them be called a coward. So when you think about the vitriol that comes from the media, Charlton, it's constantly pointed towards black athletes, black coaches.
Right. Because
this is the only chance that they have to challenge them, Charlton. They'll never challenge them face-to-face, so you challenge them when you have a mic and a studio in between you.
Yeah.
Where you're not in that same arena. But when you look at Mr. Smith, what he's done, Robert Smith, he has over 400 employees, Charlton, in his hedge fund, in his company. So he is teaching people, he is mentoring people on how to be wealthy. That's what he's doing. He showed them the way of finances, Charlton. Just like Mark Zuckerberg did when everybody stayed with Facebook. Stay with me, I will make you a millionaire.
Yeah, he did.
That's the thing, just like when you look at Robert Smith. He left, mainstream, Charlton, Wall Street, to start his own hedge fund.
Yes.
Just like Mark Zuckerberg did. But you have to have people that trust you, that believe in you. You can't always find it, regardless of what culture you are.
Right.
You can't always find people to stay with you when you're not making money.
Right.
And then when you make money, they say, well, he should give it to everybody.
Right.
Well, I offered people an opportunity to be here from day one.
Yes.
They turned me down.
Yeah.
Most people are minority, Charlton, gravitate to an athlete because they figure that they're making money right away.
Right.
So I want to be a part of that because I see the check coming in.
Yes.
I'm not sitting there trying to build a house. I want to move into the house.
Right.
That's the mindset of so many people that are unsuccessful in society. They're not willing to be there from the ground floor to go through the labor of building something to get the fruits of that labor.
Yes.
They want to be able to pick the harvest when they show up. Life doesn't work that way as far as being successful. Bill Gates, spoke about him early, he and Melinda Gates.
Yes.
When Bill Gates and Paul Allen started Microsoft, they actually were three partners, Charlton, when they started it. The third partner sold out his shares of Microsoft when he reached $14 million in value.
Yes.
When he reached $14 million in value, he sold off his shares of Microsoft. When Paul Allen, the late Paul Allen, bought the Seattle Seahawks, Charlton, he paid $352 million for the Seattle Seahawks about 15 years ago.
Right.
The day he paid for the Seattle Seahawks, his Microsoft stock made $356 million. So he got a tip of $4 million for buying the Seattle Seahawks. He had spare change.
Yeah.
So when you talk about not staying with something, not wanting to endure the hardship, these are the chances you take it. And not many people want to do that, Charles.
That's a very good point. And so we believe in billionaires and billionaires. And I personally love the fact when we did a battle C.J. Walker last week, you could Google it, and also Robert F. Smith, battle C.J. Walker last week, and then Robert F. Smith, billionaire, African-American. I hope young kids can Google their names and see how they did it and stop worrying about how many jump shots you got to shoot and how much you can bench press and how fast you can run the 40. I love what we do, Big C, on Big C Sports. What we're going to do now is take what's called the Big C pause, and we'll be right back in just a moment. All right, Big C, we are back on Big C Sports all around the universe. You can follow the Big C Sports Network on iHeartRadio Network, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts. You can find us on Xfinity Comcast Television. We look forward to all the support, and thank you for the support and growth. Big C, I just want to touch on something, because when we talk about success and how people have to fight hard for what they want. Now, I know Arizona, they voted against the Martin Luther King holiday, many moons ago. I'm watching a Giants baseball game over the weekend, and it was Sunday. They were at the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's the bottom of the seventh. The score was tied at 2. Adam Jones, African-American, comes up to bat. He plays number 10. He's a right fielder for the Diamondbacks. The stadium loudspeaker had a song playing. It's called The N-Word, Don't Let Them Down. The N-Word, Don't Let Them Down. It's said it about 4 times. Now, Giants broadcasters, they were silent for about 20 seconds because they didn't know, the great Willie Mays played for the Giants. They didn't know how to take it. But it was quiet for about 20 seconds. You as a broadcaster, you can't be quiet for 20 seconds on TV. How did that slip past the powers that be, even though it's Arizona? Judge Arpaio down there said no to the Dr. King holiday twice. How did that word come out in a stadium of baseball players? Mixing your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, when you're looking at the PA system and who's controlling the audio, a lot of times people think they have a clean version of a song and not the explicit lyrics of a song. But, this is something that's not pre-done prior to the broadcast generally. So this is something that slipped through, and when you're looking at the broadcast crew, they were not prepared for it. They were listening to the audio in the stadium, and it caught them off guard. They couldn't hit a kill switch because you normally have a 7 to 15 second delay.
Yes.
In these broadcasts, and when they run this thing in real time, Charlton, you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
But this is what we're stuck with in media. I mean, you hear it on television, you turn on a radio station, you hear it all the time. So, I mean, it's part of mainstream. As much as people want to be politically correct in what they say, how can you have political correctness when you're allowed to release the songs that are saying that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't take offense to what the Arizona Diamondbacks did, Charlton, because they're not controlling the music industry.
Yeah.
The music industry is what's allowing this to be said everywhere.
Yep.
So when people want to talk about political correctness, not using certain language in songs, Charlton,
yes,
half the songs out there are profanity laden.
Yeah.
And so when people say, well, I'm offended by that, you got to address the record companies, the record labels. They're the ones making all the money off of it.
Yeah, that's very true. And I wanted to bring that up because we just talked about Mr. Smith and what he's done for a great cause down at Morehouse. Mr. Robert F. Smith, paid $40 million. Most of these songs are written by African American, and sometimes people make excuses for it. But either way, it happened on the airways, and I just hope that we can find a way to be, monitor what we say. I want to go down to the golf tournament, Big C, the 101st PGA Championship. Brooks Koepka. A lot of people don't know about this guy. He's back-to-back PGA champion, first time since Tiger Woods in 2006 and 7, fourth major titles in the last 8 starts, fifth wire-to-wire PGA champion. He moves to official #1 ranking in the world of the golf universe. Here's a guy that many people overlook. He has an attitude, but I like his swagger. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, to not know who Brooks Koepka is, you're going to have to be living under a rock if you know anything about golf. Brooks Koepka has been hot, Charlton. And wire-to-wire finish, he's the third golfer to win 4 majors under the age of 30.
Yeah.
When you think about how good Brooks Koepka went, Jack Nicholson and Tiger Woods are the other 2.
Yeah.
But, he's been dominating the golf world. He had a hiccup on Sunday where Dustin Johnson had a hiccup also. He came within 1 stroke, but he double bogeyed. Well, he bogeyed 2 consecutive holes, and Koepka bogeyed 3 consecutive holes.
Yeah.
But, to have the stamina, Charlton, to lead from wire to wire in a major here at this modern time is an amazing feat.
Yeah.
And he's the #1 golfer in the world, and rightfully so, Charlton. He's playing all the time. He's keeping his game honed. He has the muscle memory to hit the golf ball.
Yes.
That's the reason why he wins.
Well, he's going to be in San Francisco at Hardy Park on the PGA Tour coming up next month. He's going to be at the U.S. Open in Pebble Beach. He's the first wire-to-wire winner since Hall Sutton back in 1983 at the Riviera. So just congratulations to Brooks Koepka. But a lot like Tiger Woods, when Tiger Woods came back and started winning Big C, you notice that the guy works out. Most golfers are skinny. Some of these guys look like they could be runners for the 3-mile runners, Big C, or maybe even 8-mile runners. Those marathon guys. I doubt it maybe way more than $150. This guy looks like he plays maybe some football, not the biggest guy, but he has a build about him that Tiger Woods has. How many golfers are going to start doing what they're doing? Like in sports, in baseball, football, basketball, weightlifting's become part of what they do now, not being afraid to destroy their string or their swing. Do you think he's changed that, Big C, and Tiger? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, even long before Tiger, golfers that start working out. If you look at the body of Roy McIlroy, who has always been in great shape. There's many golfers out there. Dustin Johnson, long ball hitter. Justin Day. These are thick-body golfers, Charlton. Physicality has become part of all sports. It was thought for years that you didn't want to become too strong because you would lose your flexibility. Look at basketball players when you look at the striations on their bodies, the strength that they possess. Golf has gone the same way. Baseball used to be a workout was a 6-pack of beer.
Yes.
Now everybody has a personal trainer.
Yep.
So when you look at the evolution of sports, life longevity in sports is about being in peak physical condition.
Yeah.
It's not just about having a name any longer. So all athletes in all sports, I think about when I played football. We worked out periodically. Now guys have personal trainers and work out year long. They all have dietitians.
Yes.
It's part of their income, even though they make a lot more money than what we did in those days, so they can afford these people.
Yes.
They pay dietitians what we made in a year. They pay, workout guys what we made in a year. So the evolution of the game has changed in all professional sports. You understand that your body is your business. Just like Mr. Robert Smith, who donated the $40 million to the Morehouse grads, Charlton.
Yes.
If you don't take care of your business, then you don't have the funds to do whatever you want to do financially.
Yeah.
So all these athletes are taking care of their personal business, which is their body, and they're able to develop their business even more.
Yeah, well, I look forward to that push that we have. I know that the media tried to make Spieth and Johnson kind of the guys that we replaced Tiger. I think Tiger's going to come back and keep winning majors in the next couple of years. But really impressed with what Koepka did. I want to ask you a silly question. It's not the first time I said something stupid. But he's so focused that, I don't know his girlfriend, but he snubbed his girlfriend, but she was trying to get a hug from him when he was walking from, hole to hole. Then at the end, he gives her the embrace. talk about the focus that he has, even though his girlfriend is like, this is not a date. This is not those shows that they have The Bachelor. And some people gave him flack for that. But why is she on the course anyway with him? He should be there until he's after. He's walking for holes and she's trying to get a hug. I know she wants to hold on because that's a golden ticket for some people. I don't think he was rude at all, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as an athlete, you don't want anybody interfering with your momentum or your routine.
Yeah.
And spouses or girlfriends, significant others, whatever. I mean, we have 13 different genres of sexual orientation nowadays in the world.
Yeah.
Your place is not there while somebody's at work.
Right.
You know, if you're in a presidential debate and your significant other, your spouse, wants to come up and give you a hug in the middle of the debate, is that appropriate? So why should athletes have to adorn things that other people in society should not have to deal with?
Yeah.
You're in a corporate meeting and your wife wants to walk in, well, I need some lunch money for the kids to take them to the movie or whatever. You don't do that in a corporate board meeting.
Right.
This was his corporate board meeting, Charlton, while he was at work.
Yes.
He was taking care of a multi-million-dollar deal.
Yeah.
And to come in and say, okay, I want to get affection while you're in the middle of a multi-million-dollar deal, Charlton, that's way out of line.
Yeah.
And for the media and other people to say, well, you know, he should have embraced her during that time. When you see athletes walking off the court, we're watching the NBA being played now.
Yes.
When they're walking off the court and they spawn fans as they walk past, because they're concentrating in the moment, Charlton.
Yep.
They're thinking about getting into the locker room and getting back out of the locker room.
Yes.
They're not worried about the fans. The fans came there to watch them work, not be a part of their work.
No, I agree. So I wish that young man got a lot of success. It's good to see him do it. Big C, LA Dodgers, first baseman, Cody Bellinger, is just dominated National League, a 405 batting average, 17 home runs, and 44 RBI. Big C, he's amazing. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, ever since he came into the major leagues 3 years ago, Charlton, he's just been a dominant player. He was Rookie of the Year with the Dodgers when he made the major leagues. Charlton also has participated in the last 2 World Series as the Dodgers first baseman. But Corey Bellinger is a guy that's maturing. You know, we saw your friends in the offseason, Machado and Harper and Arenado, get those huge contracts as well as Mike Trout, Charlton.
Yes.
This Cody Bellinger is going to become the new face of Major League Baseball along with Christian Yelich. What will the market bear in a couple of years, Charlton, when they go to arbitration? If the Dodgers were smart, they should offer Cody Bellinger a contract right now. Just throw $200 million out there on the table to him for the next 7 years.
Yep.
He would take the money, Charlton. Because if he gets the free agency, and we've seen those $350, $400 million contracts that have been given out in the past offseason to major league players, this guy is batting 400. There's nobody else in this stratosphere. He's second in home runs behind Yelich. And 44 RBIs, that's second in the major leagues also. So when you talk about what the Dodgers and how the Dodgers go, Cody Bellinger is doing it all. People thought when they lost Yasiel Puig in the trade to Cincinnati, all that did was make Corey Bellinger play even better, Charles. He had no more distraction from Puig in the clubhouse.
Yeah, well, just impressed with what he's doing. Also, Henry Rube blanked the Reds over 7 innings to extend his major league leading streak. 31 scoreless innings for the LA Dodgers. He's now 6-1 on the season with an ERA of 1.52. If the Dodgers don't win the World Series this year, then it would be really a stroke of bad luck. But they got rid of Yasiel Puig, who he was always getting his house robbed and whatever else was going on in his situation, Big C. They seem locked in. I know we're not October yet, but would you consider them maybe the team with the best opportunity? Not based on record, but based on it. They've been there twice before, Big C. Is this the Dodgers year? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if they continue to play their cards right, when you look at what you was doing on the mound, Charlton, 31 consecutive scoreless innings.
Yep.
Don't talk about Clayton Kershaw. And I think that's been the Dodgers' Achilles heel in the postseason more than anything else.
Yeah. Is
that the media has loved Clayton Kershaw instead of you. Give you the ball. Let him be your starter in all the series.
Yep.
We know what we got in the infield with Bellinger. You got a solid defenseman at first base, as well as the best hitter in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers have consistently built over the last 3 to 4 years, Charlton. And one of the main guys in the Dodgers organization, Magic Johnson.
Yep.
You don't hear any negativity coming from the Dodgers about Magic Johnson.
No.
Only about the Lakers.
That's a very good point, Big C. Really appreciate it. And I really admire Magic Johnson. Tonight's scheduled Major League Baseball, Oakland A's at Cleveland, New York Yankees at Baltimore, Washington at New York Mets, Philadelphia at Chicago, You have Seattle at Texas, and Chicago's at Houston. There's something about this baseball this time of year. It's really going unnoticed, other than what you just said about Bellinger, and a lot of good old boys in the game, Big C. And then we have Atlanta at San Francisco tonight, Love, McCovey Cove, Minnesota at Los Angeles, Arizona at San Diego, and the matchup game was Boston and Toronto, and that was won by Boston. So give me your feeling, the status of Major League Baseball right now. Nobody's really talking about baseball, but we can bring up some of the success that Bellinger's having and that Rue's having, and that's really worth, front page material. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, baseball is lukewarm right now when you think of all of what's going on. NFL, training camps, it just started this week. Players getting injured already, so that's going to be big news all the way. You got the NHL playoffs going on. You got the NBA playoffs going on. These electrifying games that are being played in prime time.
Yes.
Baseball you have prime time games, Charlton, but they don't command the spotlight. When you look at the marketing of a professional sport, you have to have no competition.
Yep.
As great as the NHL competition has been in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Charlton, which to me has been more exciting than the NBA. I mean, the NBA is what it is.
Yeah.
But to be able to watch the electricity of an NHL game and understand what's going on that ice, Charlton, is just something else. The NBA is what it is. It owns prime time in major markets, Charlton. Everybody's interested because they have names that people can pronounce, not like in the NHL.
Yeah.
Most of those European names, okay, whatever.
Yeah, whatever, Big C. I understand.
They just let it go. But Major League Baseball, because there's so many games, 162 games, until you get to Labor Day and know where your team is in the standings, Charlton, in baseball, it really almost doesn't matter. That's when the baseball season really starts. It's like in the NBA. Does anybody care prior to Christmas? If the NFL even wanted to challenge the NBA even more,
yes,
they should have something set up that would challenge Christmas Day. As they start talking about maybe a draft lottery in the NBA, in the NFL.
Yeah.
If they said we're going to announce a draft lottery and hold a show on Christmas Day.
Yep.
The NBA ratings would be zilch. They would be like watching a baseball game right now.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. When you think about NHL hockey, for one of the first times that I recall, and I didn't see the whole game, but just saw some highlights, NHL playoffs, everybody's chasing Lord Stanley's Cup, and the Boston Bruins are waiting. In the NHL playoff game, the San Jose Sharks are on the brink of elimination once again, and meanwhile the St. Louis Blues are one game away for the first Stanley Cup Finals appearance since 1970 with a 5-2 win in Game 5. They take a 3-2 lead in that series. And it seems poetic justice because San Jose's here because of the power plays. But St. Louis, when they were throwing the pucks at the glass last week, and people said, well, that's a bad sportsmanship. It was, but it was real. And I think they use that to fuel themselves, and they'll most likely take this because they're going back to St. Louis. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, emotion plays a lot when you're playing professional series.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen St. Louis playing with, is a lot of emotion. They knew that they got jobbed when the hand pass took place, Charlton, in Game 3 of the series.
Yep.
And they went down 2-1 to the Sharks. But they didn't go into the media and complain. We get so many athletes and coaches that go out and complain and cry through the media. I mean, we saw Houston crying through the media. We've seen Portland crying through the media in basketball.
Yeah.
But when you talk about character and class, that's what we've gotten in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That the coach for the Blues didn't go crying to the media. Said, well, it happened. There's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
The player said, we just got to play the next game. When you talk about maturity, that's what you've had in the NHL. You've had maturity. You haven't had a lot of woe me crying. We've seen that in the NFL when calls weren't made. But what they've done, Charlton, they were down 2-1 at that point.
Yeah.
They've come back and dominated the last two games. That's what they did. In athletics, you have to perform on the field, on the ice, on the grass, on the court. That's what the Blues have done. They've shown professionalism. They've come out and they've set an example for every professional league. Stop complaining about the officials. Fix it on the ice. Don't let the officials have a say-so in the final.
Very well so, Big C. As we go across the country, they follow Big C Sports over in Italy. I love the fact that you have Rafael Nadal. He beat Djokovic Sunday to win the Italian Open. Talk about excellence and guys that have just been doing it the right way over the years. It's great that they're still so competitive, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, every time you think Rafa Nadal is going to go away, I mean, just a few months ago he had blisters on his feet and he had to withdraw from a tournament, Charlton.
Yeah.
Now he comes back and he dominates Djokovic, Charlton, in this Italian Open final.
Yeah.
Like I said, here it is. Here's a guy that should be at the end of his career, but he's just as spry and dominant as ever.
Yeah, he's got to keep playing hard. Also, on Saturday, the War of Wills. We talked about that in competition. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. Saturday, the War of Wills. They stormed to victory in the Preakness Derby at a minute 54 seconds. The fastest time since 2007 in the curling victory, Big C. I know you're big into horses. A lot of us out here in California, we like to ride our horses. You can almost like to eat your horses, but I want to get your feeling on that race, Big C, your thought, War of Wills.
Well, you got to mix it with another meat, make some sausage out of it.
Yeah.
A little gamey, a little tough, they're a little lean.
Yeah.
But when you think about the Preakness, Charlton, 140,000 people, or 132,000 people attended the race. Horse racing is just a fantastic thing when you're looking at these fine animals. But the most amazing part about the race, and everybody noticed it. There was a horse named Booty Express.
Yeah.
That threw off the jockey in the gate.
That was funny. I saw that.
And this is what I go back to the Kentucky Derby on. They disqualified a horse because they said he intervened and interfered with the other horses.
Right.
Now, his Booty Express, he ran the whole race because this is what horses are taught to do.
Yep.
They're taught to run the race. He ran all the way out on the outside, y'all. Think about if he had cut in.
Yes.
And won the race. Even though he wouldn't have officially won because you have to have a jockey on your back.
Yes.
When you cross the winning line, Charlton. But here it is, just like in the Kentucky Derby. He was taught to run, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so how can you say that a horse intentionally interfered with somebody when he's just running around the race?
Yeah.
And so how can you disqualify the Kentucky Derby winner? This right alone should have been a prize for a Kentucky Derby winner.
Yeah.
So, he did what he normally does.
Yep, I agree very much. So it's great when horses can get some love, Big C. Now, you think about the longest winning streak in women's softball history. It came to an end over the weekend. The University of Oklahoma, the Sooners, they have such a great program down in Oklahoma. The ladies lost a heartbreaking 2-1 game versus the University of Wisconsin, the Lady Badgers. It's hard to have a streak. It was 39 games, Big C. That program is so successful. It is great to have the women being praised for all their hard work and how much success they've had. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, to go on a winning streak like the Lady Sooners did, it actually was 41 games consecutive that they won prior to losing over the weekend to the Lady Badgers of Wisconsin. I mean, it was an exciting game, Charlton, because they were leading 1-0. Then all of a sudden, the Lady Badgers had 2 sacrifice bunts, Charlton,
yes,
that drove across the winning runs in the 6th inning.
Yes.
When you think about a coach and ingenuity, Charlton, in a game, that you're playing a team for power, and they lay down these suicide bunts, Charlton, right in front of the plate to catch the defense off guard, and you score the game-tying and the game-winning run, Charlton, to end the nation's longest winning streak at 41. But, they have one more game to play tonight, Charlton, and if they win, they stay in the tournament. If not, that miraculous season is over if they lose.
Yeah, well, I wish them all well, especially when the women get some attention for winning so well. Big C, in the NBA, the final 4 teams left in the NBA Eastern Conference. Milwaukee has a 2-1 lead over Toronto. In the Western Conference, Golden State landed vibranium, a 3-0 lead over Portland. Who's been playing the most dominant? If we talk about the most dominant player in this series, not necessarily any team, give me your feeling for who you think is the most dominant player so far in the NBA Finals.
Well, Charlton, my number one choice would be Draymond Green. I know the media now is starting to gravitate to him. I've been talking about him for 2 weeks, Charlton.
Yeah.
Draymond Green, what he has meant to the Golden State Warriors, how he has taken command of that organization as a player, as a coach, as a motivator, Charlton.
Yes.
He's done all facets of the game. Things that you can't teach, that you can't coach, he has taken it upon himself. I see him as the most dominant individual player in a long time in the finals since Magic Johnson, Charlton.
Yep.
A player that can command so much in every aspect of the game. You see the box score, what he does.
Yes.
But the intangibles that he does that's not the box score, how moving players around, how he's getting in the grill of his teammates, how he's moving them into position, Charlton.
Yes.
How he's seeing the dynamics of the game. That's what people are not recognizing. And he has realized, Charlton, that when he's on the floor, how valuable he is to this organization. He's not complaining this year like he has done in other years where he's drawn attention to himself and the officials have kind of ridden him for that. You're probably giving him some unnecessary calls. Now he's just become a mesh pot of the Golden State Warriors, Charlton, and he is going along playing fantastic ball. When I look at the second best player, I got to look at Kawhi Leonard, what he meant to this Toronto Raptors organization. He has taken them to where they've never been in the playoffs. And ironically, Charlton, his scoring average is the second highest in the playoffs in the past 20 years. The only guy with a higher playoff average is Michael Jordan. Than what Kawhi Leonard has had the past couple decades in the playoffs. So how he has gone is how the Toronto Raptors have gone, Charlton. He needs a little more help from his bench. The team has to know, hey, it's not over yet. We can still play with these Milwaukee Bucks. But the Golden State Warriors, Charlton, are just a house on fire led by Draymond Green.
Well, let me get your feeling. When you watch Milwaukee and you watch Toronto, there's something about that crowd up in Toronto that just it's electric, McSee. I think they call it Jurassic Park outside. People get together. Giannis didn't have the best game, but you know they're not going to keep him down for 2 games in a row. McSee, your thoughts?
Well, you know, when you look at what Giannis has done in the playoffs against the Raptors, he has not dominated the Raptors.
No, he's not.
And that's what people have to look at. It's been by committee with the Milwaukee Bucks. Everybody is trying to step up at different times. I mean, you look at Lopez. He was a non-entity in this game. Just like Giannis was a non-entity in the game when Lopez got to 29 points. Giannis is the guy who has not carried the weight for the Bucks. Everybody else has been there. Middleton, Brogdon, players, Mirotic, they have stepped up. Giannis has not been the dominant player here in the playoffs that he has been throughout the regular season.
It's going to be a great series. I would like to see it go 7, most likely it will go 6. Give me your thoughts tonight. Up in Portland, it's a great city, the great Northwest. But the Golden State Warriors, they're 30-1 without Durant. They really can play with their foot on the gas. They're a front runner right now. Portland, they're good enough to get at least 1 game. But Lillard has to hitch in his giddy up, whether they tell people or not. Is it over? Do they borrow the brooms that the Boston Bruins borrowed when they got into the finals? Mix of your thoughts.
Well, the series is over. I don't know if it will end in Portland tonight, but the series is over, Charlton. I saw something from the Portland Trailblazers that I hadn't seen from a professional organization in a long time. C.J. McCallum, when the Warriors took the lead by 1 point the other night, he threw his hands down like, here we go again. It's all over. I hadn't seen a professional athlete give up in a game in a long time, especially an all-star player, Charlton. And he gave up in the game. He just was mentally beat down. This is something you don't see amongst professional athletes, is that they just give up. I mean, everybody talked about Embiid's emotion that he showed after the loss to the Raptors. That's real. Genuine.
It was
real.
You
cry in situations like that because you do work hard and you care about your ability, you care about your team, and you care about your chances. But when you throw your hands down in disgust and you drop your head because your opponent has put his foot in your butt again, and you don't know how to get it out, that to me is losing. And that's what Portland showed me in this last game. When Golden State took the lead by 1 in the fourth quarter, I think it was about 5 minutes to go in the game. They gave up at that point.
Well, something else that I think is just phenomenal, and it may not even be talked about that much, but when you look at what Curry has done, we talked about leadership. What is leadership? In our society, leadership is when you cross the finish line first. It's when you pound your chest the hardest. It's when you say, look at me, look at me, look at me. And we talked about the marketability of Steph Curry and his wonderful family. I love that name, Curry. His wonderful family. This man has been the silent leader for this organization for many moons now. And he doesn't pound his chest. And he wants to win so much. He helps make his other teammates better. I still don't think he gets talked about when it comes to MVP of the league. But all he does is win, win, win. Mix of your thoughts.
Well, he's been a marvelous part of this organization. As good as Steph Curry has been, he's been known for scoring. But like I said, a straw that stirs the drink in Golden State is Draymond Green. You think about it, they won a championship. That first championship they won 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, whatever it was. Draymond Green was in the lineup. They lost the following year after having the best record in the NBA. Steph Curry was in the lineup. Draymond Green was not in the lineup. And it changed the complexion of that series. Even in the last 2 championships that they have won, what Kevin Durant has been the finals MVP.
Right.
Draymond Green has been in the lineup. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson back their game to allow Kevin Durant to be assimilated into the offense.
Yeah.
Unselfishness. This is hard to find in the modern day professional athlete. Somebody who is unselfish.
Yep.
But they knew what they had a commonality in wanting to win. In their mind, it didn't make a difference who scored the points.
Right.
They just wanted to win. So they sacrificed their games for Kevin Durant to get the notoriety. But they also spread it out the offense. It became more of an isolation offense.
Yes.
With Kevin Durant out of the lineup, Charlton, they've gone back to the mantra that they had 5 years ago, where they had a motion team, Charlton, where they moved without the basketball.
Yep.
They found ways to get open. And this is a team, they call them the Splash Brothers, but they can easily be called the Slash Brothers.
Yep.
Because that's what they do. They slash and shoot. And Curry and Thompson does it as well as anybody. They don't sit there and say, I got to have the last shot.
Right.
Whoever's open is going to take the shot for Golden State.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. So we have Koepka winning a golf tournament, the 101st PGA Championship. Congratulations to that. Oklahoma Sooners, their women's softball saw their record come to an end, but they'll most likely continue winning. Big C. Also saw, you talked about the horse derby, but I really want to close out by saying, just one more statement. You can follow Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, also Comcast Xfinity, and we appreciate the support. I really want to just say, Battle C.J. Walker, we talked about it last week. Now we're talking about Robert F. Smith announcing paying off $40 million in student debt. I'm hoping that we can get every millionaire in the United States, and there's over 1,800 of them, to do something similar. And I would hope that they can take a cause for Black Lives Matter. It was Jewish Americans that started the NAACP back in 1909. I would love to see many people repeat what the great Mr. Robert F. Smith did. I think that's so important. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Dalton, there's an opportunity for two series to be closed out tonight. The St. Louis Blues have a 3-2 lead over the San Jose Sharks, and that series could be in peril and over tonight, Charlton, if the officials don't play an integral role. The Golden State Warriors, they just have to keep slashing like they're slashing. I don't think Portland has the heart to want to stay in this series.
Well, speaking of heart, you can have heart, and you can listen to heart, and you can listen to it every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and the good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. As we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.